Kayuadi.
All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Retic Lounge. We are on episode 138, and Nate, we were kind of gone for a couple weeks, just kind of out of nowhere, out of the blue. It was nice. I'm not gonna lie.
Got out into the mountains for a little bit, disconnected from my phone for a few days. That was beautiful.
Right. How was the trip?
It was really good. Just, went up to this little mountain town right outside of Boise, Idaho. Parked my truck right up against the edge of this campground. I have a little tent that goes in the bed of my truck.
Nice.
Air mattress, kind of glamped it a tiny bit. It got cold, but I was able to unzip my tent each morning and just, a big reservoir, no light pollution. So I got to see the stars for the first time in, probably over a year. So it was great.
Awesome. That sounds relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to jump into this episode after taking, a couple weeks off. We have Nathan Hess of Nathan Hess Retics on. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with him, he just produced his very first clutch of reticulated pythons that we want to highlight and talk about because it's a pretty big deal. It's a big clutch. We'll let him tell the story. You guys can stay tuned and just listen to the episode on what that is. But something else that I really like about Nathan as well is he has these amazing enclosures. And I want to talk to him a little about his keeper before breeder philosophy and approach with the type of enclosures that he's keeping. But yeah, I mean, I just, we got a brand new breeder on. We got someone who's keeping their animals phenomenally. And has quite the collection of snakes outside of Retics as well. I mean, everything that he owns is it's top notch. He does not take shortcuts on the quality of animals that he gets.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn a little bit more. I know about the Retics, I know about the clutch, but this is my first time sitting down, getting to know him. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Before we bring him on, I want to go ahead and just give another shout out to Cold Blooded Cafe. If you guys are looking for the best quality rodents, they also have quail, pigs, and other feeders that are on their website available very frequently. Go ahead and use our code Reptile Lounge 20 for 20% off. Again, that's Reptile Lounge 20% off. Shout out to Des. Thank you for the sponsorship and thank you for supporting TRL and the network. Nate, you got anything else before we jump in?
Buy your damn rodents. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Okay, let's bring one. Whether you've poured your heart and soul into your reptile business or you've just begun your business journey, AE Foundry has you covered with next-level expertise in graphic design, motion graphics, videography, photography, and so much more. If you've been dying for a new logo for your reptile business, motion graphics for your current logo, a new website, or need assistance making your video podcast come to life, then listen carefully. AE Foundry's mission places storytelling at its core. AE Foundry believes that a distinctive story and background are the driving forces that set your brand apart. In today's market, consumers seek more than just products. They crave a connection built on trust with the brands they cherish. AE Foundry is committed to empowering small businesses and fostering authenticity that resonates with their consumers. Reach out to them and let them help you craft a visual narrative that helps establish a genuine and lasting connection with your audience. To contact AE Foundry, email them at aromero@aefoundry.com or on Instagram at AE Foundry. When it comes to housing your retics, trust me, you're going to want an enclosure that will be just as strong and durable as your reticulated python. The Heartland Reptile Enclosure is next level tough and will outlive you and your retic by several generations. Heartland Reptile Enclosures are designed and manufactured out of powder-coated aluminum to provide the highest quality and longevity available in the reptile enclosure. What makes them even better is they are lighter than your PVC and plastic enclosures out there and are extremely tough. Stop playing around with plastic enclosures for your large constrictors and step up your enclosure game with the Heartland Reptile Enclosure. To inquire about one of these enclosures, speak to Jordan himself at Heartland Reptiles on Instagram, Facebook, and on TikTok. Here on TRL, we preach about the importance of using hooks, feeding tongs, and other tools with your reticulated python all the time. Animal Equipment by Stoney not only has all the tools you need for any snake you keep, but they have the absolute best hooks on the market. What sets Animal Equipment by Stoney's hooks apart from the other guys is their polycarbonate hook ends that provide a warm feel that won't disturb or bother your retic, ensuring a positive interaction from the get-go. Since 2008, AE Stoney has been supplying zoos, herpetologists, and other animal professionals with their tools. It's time for you to step your hook game up and buy an AE Stoney hook. To learn more and purchase one of their amazing products, visit aestoney.com. What's going
on?
Hey, how you doing?
How's your night been, Nathan?
Good.
Good. Well,
late.
Glad to finally have you on after pulling that clutch pretty successfully, it looked like. So
Yeah.
excited to talk about
I
it.
cut it out from when I got them out.
Oh, I was watching that on the video. It's like you opened up the cage and then I saw there was a cut and then you lifted them out. I want to talk about that a little bit as well to see how that experience was. But do you mind kind of just this is like your moment. Just introduce who you are, when you started keeping reptiles, and what made you interested in them, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So my name's Nathan Hess. Company's Nathan Hess Retics. I started keeping ball pythons when I was 14, 15. That turned into red-tailed boas. Then I had some reticulated pythons. Right before I was early 20s, I would say. I did get a yellow anaconda, then a green anaconda. I had a caiman. Life happened. I had to kind of put all that on hold, which was actually beneficial for the animals. I don't believe I was keeping them to the best of my ability or what they deserved. So looking back, I think it was good that was short-lived. I still had the passion, but didn't have the money to make it happen.
Right.
So I have 4 kids, a wonderful wife, and we are now in a place where I can focus on this. It's not a cheap hobby. It's very time consuming. And it wasn't very long ago my wife would have thrown up or been sick, thinking we had a snake in the house.
Right.
But she's overcame that. She's phenomenal. She actually gets out, we call him Chip. He's a sand boa for my middle son. No, my youngest son, Emerson. He wants a sand boa. We got him one last year at Tinley, and my wife loves him. So that's pretty interesting to see the complete, turnaround she's had.
Those snakes look ridiculous.
Like they're so
their
goofy.
heads. They're literally they're hilarious.
Yeah, and there's a learning curve for them also. He went 3.5 months without eating.
Oh, sure.
Wow.
And I literally think it's because I was feeding him like he wasn't interested in that. That prey I was feeding him. But we have a good, program with him now. So I was a carpenter before, so I used those skills to build my enclosures. I did look everywhere else that I could to see where I could purchase an enclosure, but I didn't like the dimensions that they came in. And then if they would custom build them, I didn't like the prices because it still wasn't going to be exactly how I wanted it.
Yeah, and the freight is going to be $500 alone.
It's crazy. Yeah. So I watched. Oh, I wish I remembered his last name. He's phenomenal. He's helped me out so much. He doesn't know he's helped me out, but I watch his YouTube videos. Brad, he builds all the custom enclosures.
Are you talking Brad? Is he over here in Texas? Is he All American? And he used to be SOG?
I don't think so. He talks a lot with Mike's monitors, I think.
Okay.
I think that they talk because they use that polygen.
Okay.
man, I think his last name starts with a G. But his instructions on how to build these enclosures are phenomenal. Um, so I continue to watch his videos, do research, um, reach out to different people to try to get ideas. What I do is I don't just reach out to one person. I reach out to, I mean, probably close to 10 people to get one answer that I come up with by maybe combining all of their information they gave me, and making an informed decision off of that. Um, so, I mean, that's where I stood. I'm fortunate enough in life to be able to afford this. I have the time, and yeah, it truly is a hobby. Um, but realistically, it would be wonderful to make a return on what I,
Yeah,
spent. I think that'd be crazy not to think that. But what I will say is, whenever my Kayuadi was, had all the eggs, like, I was nervous, and I'll get into that later with the time frame it took for her to finally have, lay the eggs. But I knew right then that I am in it for the right reasons, because I was more concerned about her well-being than about the eggs.
right.
So that was just was I knew I was, but that just was a reassurance, knowing I'm doing this the right way.
Yeah.
And that's no, I'm not throwing any shame in anyone that does it for a business. Like that's completely fine. That's up to you. Um,
Hmm.
but for me, that's not the main purpose.
Yeah. No, I
So, while you were going over that, I just did a little bit of quick research. Is it Brad's Bioactive Builds?
Yes,
okay,
Okay.
yes,
cool.
Yeah, I just wanted to give credit where credit was due
yeah.
because,
He's phenomenal.
yeah, if
Cool.
there's
Yes,
anyone looking to do similar stuff to what we're going to show from what you've done with your enclosures, I'd like them to have
yeah,
the resources.
Cool.
yep,
Um, I think a lot of people are they it's a little like taboo now, right? To talk about like the business side of things when it comes to like keeping and breeding animals. I've never shied away from the conversation. At the end of the day, some people are operating a business, and for me, this
hmm,
is still like hobby level, right? But I also do my taxes on my animals, and it's
yes,
it's it's a thing where I do want to try to be profitable, but it's great because I don't rely on
correct.
the money that I get from the animals to feed the animals. If that makes
Hmm,
sense, right? Like
yeah,
um, so, or to feed my family, which is even more important.
That
yes,
Um,
that would be a scary
right.
proposition.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So what, if you don't mind, can you go into a little bit of like, what are you keeping right now?
So I, so I currently have, my favorite one out of all of them is my female Aztec. Um, when I first got back into this, you know, I didn't know any of these groups were around. I'm relatively new to, getting back into this, only a few years, and I saw these snakes, and they just caught me off guard. And I thought I have to have one of those. So I reached out to the person, not knowing they were not, readily available in the United States at that time. And, that's when I was informed that, hey, right now that snake in particular that I was looking at was overseas. And then I found out that it was an Aztec. So then whenever I found one that was available in the United States, like it didn't matter how much it was going to cost, I was buying it. And that's exactly what I did. And it's just the pattern, and all the potential that they have. It is just, that is by far my favorite snake.
Yeah.
Um, so and honestly, it's kind of ironic. I remember me and my wife talking about it, that who's going to spend a lot of money from someone that they don't know? And I thought, I'll get started slow. I'll buy some lower end stuff, kind of get my name out there, and then work my way up. So that was one night, less than 24 hours later. So, oh, hey, honey, I just spent a fortune on this snake. We're going the opposite route. Um, so that's what I did. So then from there, I spoke to Shane. I have a couple of his snakes. I have, at the time there was only two of these known. I think there's a couple more now, but it's a purple Sunfire Orange Ghost Stripe, and just the colors. I mean, it just really, really stands out. Um, I've been from the research that I've done. Shane has high praises regarding his, orange ghost stripes and his purples. So my whole goal was how do I get the best of the best? And so part of my process was I tried going across all the breeders. One, they had to have, products that I liked or that I was actually interested in. But my thought process was from business minded is if I have these breeders that have big followings, that are respected people, then whenever I purchase their animal and then I breed them on my own, I have them all in my corner supporting me.
Yeah.
So when someone
Absolutely.
tries to spend 15,000, 20,000 on one of my snakes, they're not just buying it from Nathan Hess. They know that I have the support of these people that basically I stole their tenure in a roundabout way, but
Right.
it was a business decision. And granted, I wouldn't have done that if they didn't have a product that I really liked.
Right.
So I mean, Aubrey has been phenomenal. I have an ocelot from him. At 66% head. What is it? Head albino? Head
Endocarpal.
yes. And the cool thing about that one is they really think it's gonna work really closely with the Aztec, but I can't remember his name. Overseas, he just bred the Aztec to the ocelot. So we should see how that's going to pan out pretty soon. My ocelots will be 3 in October. Um, so depending on how things work out, hopefully relatively sooner than later, I'll be able to, you know, see what happens. Um, so then I had, um, so working with Bob and Xavier, they have been nothing but phenomenal, to me.
I've heard
Um,
they have great customer service there. I wanted to make a comment real quick on what you said
sure.
about like the slow startup, right? Building a name for yourself and then
Mhm.
pulling out the big guns. I feel like if you've never, if no one's ever known of you, the moment you buy an Aztec in the U.S., everyone knows you. So
Right.
Yeah.
that's a flex move, right? That's a power
Yeah.
move right there. It doesn't matter who you are. You buy an
Yeah.
Aztec, you got eyes on you.
I
Yeah.
remember when Lucas and I first saw them at one of the Arlington shows
Yeah,
and us talking about, you know, who's going to be breeding these and just like the future plans for the Aztec stuff. And so, yeah, you're not wrong, Lucas. This
yeah,
is years ago we were talking
Yeah.
about this.
yeah, yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a lot of messages from people I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whenever, because I kept it. There was some heat around that. And so I kept it, to myself a little bit. Um, but when I finally did, make the video, saying that hey, this is what I have, nothing but positive, interactions with everyone. Um, so that was pretty cool. I will say to this day, I've had zero issues with any person in this community. But I think there's a caveat to that. I hear a lot of times, people that are, we'll say, seasoned breeders. There's concerns about the new breeders whenever they're trying to help them. But I made a point to comment. I don't try to comment too much on all the bickering back and forth. Um,
Same here.
but yeah, I read it, I soak it in, and then I make decisions based off of that.
Right.
But people complain about the more experienced breeders and vice versa. But whenever I come and I ask a question, I believe that some of the new breeders they think they already have the right answer. So whenever they're told something different, like it just doesn't jive. Like neither one is set up to try to get the best answer. I think they're wanting them to be told yes, you are doing it correctly. And I am just so open minded because I know nothing. Um, have learned so much. It is crazy. I thought that, oh yeah, I'll get the retics again. I know what I'm doing. I knew nothing. Uh, you know, um,
It's the way it works.
man, what a learning process it's been, and it's awesome. Like whenever I'm down there and I'm cleaning, like it's not work. I got my
Hmm.
earbuds in. I have my tea I'm drinking. My son's playing his video games, and depending on what's happening, it's just having a good time, interacting with them. And this is every day. There's no work involved. So, eh, but the learning curve was really, really quick. So I kind of jumped off track, so I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good.
And so really what I was doing, all these animals that I purchased, it was all how can I enhance the Aztec gene? One, I don't know how to. I'm trying to do the best that I can. A real big topic right now that everyone's speaking of is selective breeding, right? Um, there was that process in my mind. What did I think was going to go best with the Aztec? Mind you, I don't know anything, so it's a complete guess. I did take a lot of data from overseas because they're light years ahead of us with the Aztecs and what they've completed. Um, so that was very helpful, but then there's also that unknown. There hasn't been the Ocelot Aztec. There hasn't been the Blue Hypo Aztec. So I purchased a Blue Hypo, Fire Blue Hypo. I think it's Posset Pied, I believe, from Bob.
Yep.
Phenomenal animal, man. The Blue Hypos, they are, I don't know why there's
Like
not more stuff done with them.
blue hypo fire Aztecs.
Yeah.
I'm already drooling with the idea of what that would look like.
Yeah. She's getting my female is over 10 feet now. Um, and I don't know how old she is. She still has a little ways to go. Really what I'm hoping for this year is, which will also incorporate my other snakes, is I'm hoping my female Aztec goes, my ocelot, and then I purchased another female from Shane um to really complement my male tiger Aztec, that's het, mocha, or white. And I have a super sunfire purple hogs. So depending on how my male Aztecs, comes out, either the mocha or the,
Right.
white, I think that will be some crazy stuff that I'll be able to produce. And she is, and I'll tell you this, the one of the concerns I have with my cages, how I build them, is I had a stand that it's on, and I made it too tall. So my tallest, I have to like stand on my tippy toes to look in there. I did not know how big that girl was getting until I just moved her to the bottom. I get them out, but not in the winter time. And that so she grew a lot. She's a big girl. So I'm reeling her back a little bit. I mean, nothing bad, um, but it was really shocking to see how long she is now. Um, so she's 3 years and a couple months. Um, so I'm excited about that one. And then is that I oh, and then I had the pure Kayuadi. And the reason why I chose her is, and I have no concerns or any issues with, and I don't pronounce them correctly. The Kalatoas, is that how you
Caldos,
say
yeah.
them? Okay, those a lot more. They're a lot more readily available. A
Mhm.
lot of people have those. So to my personality, I wanted to do something that has never been done before. I don't believe, as of right now, there has ever been an Aztec Kayuadi.
No, there's been Kayuadi ocelots, but not Kayuadi Aztecs.
I
Gotcha.
don't think there's been Kalatoa Aztecs either, but yeah, you're right in terms of just that locality being more readily available and widely in the market.
Yeah, because I couldn't find, like, that was the only option I could find. I looked for a Karampa. but couldn't get one. Couldn't find one. Um,
It's a long waiting list.
No
yeah.
kidding.
Um, you know, and then I really like, I don't know if Madu.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah,
I
Madu.
I think
really like those.
interchangeable.
Madu, but yeah, those are nice
Yeah,
too.
yeah. But again, I couldn't find them. So, and I only found one of the Kayuadis. I purchased them from Brian. He sold all of his um, retics. He's doing something different now. But so that was my main goal. I like the looks, the pattern. I had a guess of hoping that whenever I bred the Aztec, that it's gonna, complement each other, and hopefully we'll find out soon. Um, but yeah, that's my thought process. When I move, I do have quite a few other plans. I want to get. I love the localities, and I want to have a wall in my basement that's going to have all the localities, information, the maps, just everything to kind of, I don't know, make them stand out and educate. And so I'm right now going through. Oh, Rodney has that Ternate. He Ternates.
Turn 8. Yeah.
Uh, Ternate.
Yep.
I love those. The colors, the dark blacks, like that's I really. And me and him have talked, a lot, and I think that would be a good, mix with the Aztec. But I don't have the room right now. So I could put them in, tubs or whatever else I needed to do. I'm just not going to do that.
Right.
Whenever I build the enclosures, terrific. I'll purchase what's available then, or I'll have it be empty until I find the right animal.
Right.
So, and then like I said, I have my sand boa from my son. I have a green anaconda I purchased from Megan last year, and then the Moluccan scrub, and that's all the snakes that we had.
Okay. I think as far as retics go, you went all out with just making sure that you got like some of the best looking animals and also just sought after. So it looks like you went after a lot of the sought after stuff that was a little more difficult to get. And I think that that's a great foundation and a great start. I want to talk a little bit about your enclosures because your enclosures are phenomenal. And I know at the beginning of the episode, I talked about this whole like keeper first mentality and this hobby aspect and everything. And so, what I mean by that, just to kind of elaborate a little bit, is the idea of like, we're not trying to maximize our space by keeping as many animals, but we're looking to provide our animals with larger enclosures, even if that means keeping less and having more niche or just, again, just a lot more higher valued animals. And so, kind of, you talked in the beginning about having uh, a few animals that you ended up, rehoming or you moved them out because you weren't capable of taking care of them the way that you did. And then Nathan's going to pull up your stuff here shortly to show it. But like, what was the mindset when you bought your collection and wanting to get the bigger stuff? Why'd you go that full naturalistic route?
I saw some things online, primarily from Brad, and I just was instantly drawn to it. One of my employees, he told me, um, he said, Nathan, you never just put one foot in, you jump both feet in, and you're committed to it. So I guess that's exactly what I did with this. Um, I did not like, again, this isn't me judging anyone, it's completely up to them to choose how they deem is appropriate or the best way for their animals. But I just did not like the height that a lot of the enclosures that were readily available for me, would give them. I don't believe 3 feet is even tall enough, and that's the minimum size of all my enclosures. Um, when people say that the retics like to climb, and that I hear a lot of times they reference like the smaller ones. Well, I have a 13-foot retic that will climb all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't believe that is accurate. Um, and then also in the water, depending on which enclosure. Like I had a lot bigger of those natural bowls. They would swim in it, soak in it. Like they love the water. They love to climb, and I do get the snakes out, but I could stand there and just watch them, and that's more. I don't know. That gives me a better purpose than disturbing them, getting them out. Um, my feeling is I don't believe that the snake wants me to go grab it, hang it around my neck, and go, stress it out. I do believe that there is good interactions, and I do interact with them on a daily basis. I do take them out, but I kind of I'm more on the lesser side of doing that. Um, and none of my snakes are aggressive. Outside of the normal, hey, I opened up the cage, it thinks it's getting fed aggressive.
Right.
Um, but I mean, once I put the hook on them, tap train them, I can get them at
Puppy
not
dog,
a
ready to
single
go.
concern, you know. Um, so by doing a little bit of research and seeing what I had available, I knew I had the skill set to build these. Um, so I just started it. One piece of PVC at a time. Um, kind of learned as I went. Uh, the biggest problem I ran into is thinking that, hey, this isn't going to cost a whole lot because I'm building it, and then realizing I paid 10 times if I just would have purchased it over. But obviously I would do it again and again because I did do it again and again. Um, but the most challenging part of these enclosures is the backgrounds. That is that half inch to an inch thick insulation you'd find at Home Depot, like those pink boards,
Hmm.
wall insulation. And I glue them onto the PVC, and then I take a brush on my drill and I just take the brush and drill the whole entire thing, to try to make it look more realistic. And then I put 7 or 8 layers of dry lock on it, and then I dye it with concrete dye to the color, of my liking. So it's completely waterproof. And gives it really good texture that helps the animal shed. Really helps keep the heat in since it is more insulation. It is in my basement. Um, but then to the next portion of with the glass, I had a bunch of options like what type of glass should I get? What
Right.
type of track should I get? And I didn't want to spend all that time and money and have a nice looking cage just to have the showpiece, which is the glass and track, look.
Fall short. Yeah.
Yes. So each glass and track, depending on the size, is a minimum of 800 up to $1,200 per enclosure. It's 1/4 inch thick. And mind you, that potentially could be on the high side. I did not shop around. There was one person that was close enough for me, and I said, okay, great. He could take care of it. I had a hard time finding someone that would do this custom glass. So if someone says, "Oh, it's too much," you're probably right. But
For
I
real.
went back to him. He's taking care of me. It's been great. When I build my new enclosures, he's also going to take care of me. So sometimes it's okay to pay a little more if you get the service you want. Um, but see on that photo there, I have that deep heat projector that's in that can. They no longer have that in the enclosures because they decide they want to climb on it. Um, but that light right there, the UVB light, they do not mess with that. I don't know how beneficial the UVB light is. I haven't seen any evidence that says, hey, they seek it out and like they have to have it.
Yeah.
But the concern I have is I have the reader where it, tells you how far down, what it should be. It's a little more challenging because the cage is so high to get it at a good spot for them too.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so that maybe if it was lower, maybe I could see those benefits, but it's on anyways. They have the option if they want to. Um,
Yeah. They can get up there. I mean, they they can get close enough to it to get exposure for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. They yeah, they mess around with everything all the time. But the biggest thing was I had to get rid of those can lights, the deep heat projectors. They just were tearing them up. I was afraid they were going to get burnt. Um, I took those out, and all I'm using to heat it is just the radiant heat panel. Um, I got it from what's his name? You can't just order it. You have to talk to him. He emails you back and forth to make sure you buy the right one.
Pro products.
Yes, yes. Um, and he's phenomenal. He every single enclosure, I tell him the dimensions, I tell him the ambient temperature I'm trying to reach, the hot spot, what my basement is. He says, "This is the one you buy." That's what I buy, and it's perfect. Um, so it really helps to give that gradient of the heat because I only have it on one side, and that's the only heat source. Um, the
Is that a
downside,
Mist King system that I saw in there
yes.
as well?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep. So that was added on later. Um, the humidity is really rough to get to where it needs to be in the wintertime. Even with the Miskeen and the type of substrate I use, like it's still almost impossible to get to a really good humidity level. I mean, they shed actually pretty good though, which was kind of, it was pretty weird to me that's how they shed, this winter, with the humidity not being what I wanted it to be. But I do take them out pretty often and have them soak. Um, but I installed the Miskeen. I was going to do something different, and then somehow I realized that hey, I have this option. So I have a reservoir that has all the water, and I buy distilled water, put in there. It has the pump, and then it's one Mist King system that is running all my enclosures. I ran the lines all through the ceiling, and they all have shutoff valves for each individual. Some of them have two different ports, some have one, but I can shut them off at any point in time if I choose to do so. And I have it on it 3 times a day. It comes on for, I think, 45 seconds, and they love it. Well, I think they love it anyways. When it's on, they'll poke their head up, their neck gets real long, they're flicking their tongue. Um, so it's pretty neat seeing them interact with that. Um, and it does help raise the humidity also. It does help right when it's on, but it fades away pretty quickly. Um,
And another thing, I feel like I notice something new each time I look at one of these enclosures on video. Do you have cameras in each
yes.
setup?
Yes.
That's really
Yeah,
cool.
I didn't know which camera to get. Shane reached out to me, or I don't know which one, but he told me the camera that he was using, and it's just the little ring ones. And you have to get the ones for outdoors, so it helps with, because of the humidity in the enclosures. And easiest thing ever. It's a small little camera, tucked up out of the way. Snakes, they look at it. I'll get an alert, and I'll just see a face of a big snake right on the camera. Um, but yeah, I haven't had a single problem with those cameras.
Okay,
Um,
good to know.
the Yeah, the other thing is those rocks that I have in there. Those are from Universal Rocks. They're based out of Texas. Same way with the bowls. And uh, I learned a lot. So whenever I build these new enclosures, I know what I'm not going to purchase again and what I will. But the ledges up high, I mean, they love it. That the 5 or 6 foot tall enclosure I have, which is in those videos, it's downstairs. That's where my blue hypo is. Oh yeah, there you go, that one.
Nice,
She's always up top.
nice.
Um, and I think, man, I hope
Oof.
those ledges don't break.
Was that
Um,
that was the Aztec Tiger right there?
yeah, he was in there.
Oh,
Yeah, there he is. I change them probably every 6, 7 months. I'll put them in a different enclosure. Just to, I don't know if it does anything or not. I mean, they seem interested, but um, but yeah, the ledges, they're extremely difficult to install. You just gotta fake it till you make it until you figure out how to incorporate it, how it's gonna stay on there. I normally do like 1.5 inches of that foam board to help support it, screw it in. I put the foam in there, and knock on wood, it's been fine. So
I'm curious for you were talking about like moving, putting some enclosures together. What's kind of the like most elaborate thing you have in your mind that you want to work towards?
so I don't. The only enclosures I feel are sufficient for my animals right now are my 8 foot by 3 feet by 3 feet enclosures. Um, the 6 feet one, it is nice though, because you can watch them grow, still put them in a bigger enclosure. I was told at the beginning, you're gonna stress out the snake if you put a little snake in a big enclosure. And maybe that's the case for some people. I had zero issues. They ate in the enclosures, they weren't defensive in the enclosures, but that was because I had tons of hiding spaces for them.
I think that's the
Um,
key.
yeah, and that's what I talked to Scott, and he's been very helpful because he has some really cool cages too, enclosures,
Hmm.
and they're real natural, look phenomenal too. And he emphasized on me that, hey, it's okay if they have a big enclosure, they just have to have lots of hiding spots.
Right.
Um,
Foliage.
but yes, but I just don't feel like they're big enough. My enclosures are. So my plan is, depending on the space and the new home we're going to purchase soon, is I have two 6 foot ones. I don't know if I want to open them. Like, I'm going to put them together either left to right to make it a 12-foot enclosure, or it's going to be I'm going to stack them on the top, and then I will reinforce supports, and then it will be a 6 foot tall enclosure by 3 feet deep and 6 feet wide. So I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do, but I am going to. I know for sure for my anaconda, I'm gonna have a very big showpiece for him with water, y- climbing trees, all sorts of things for him. And I also want to do that with at least one of my retics.
Mm.
Um, so I mean, they're all showpieces in my opinion, but I will do things just a little bit differently, or the size of the enclosure will be a little bit differently to make it stand out a little more.
Okay. Yeah, I'm excited for that. That I think that's going to be pretty awesome. So I number one, just kudos to the hard work that you put into to building the enclosures, to doing all of the labor that goes into it, right? So a lot of people
Yep.
don't get that experience, right? They don't put a labor of
Yeah.
love into their enclosures, and I could say that for myself, right? Everything that
Oh
I've
yeah.
gotten has been purchased, and at most I put some screws on the side of some PVC, but yeah, I've always admired people that have always gone that added extra effort, customized, did things themselves. I mean, even one of my best friends, Adler, yeah, and he's doing the little foam spray stuff all on the back and like making caves, and that stuff is
Yeah.
cool. That stuff is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. I'll tell you what though. Uh, if there's a better way to do the backgrounds than to use that foam board and put a drill bit on there, man, I'm all for it
Hmm.
because it is miserable.
Hmm.
You're sitting in that
Hmm.
enclosure and you have goggles on and a respirator on because all the particles flying. It fogs up. You can't see anything. Your drill gets jammed with all that, and then you're sweating, and then your back's hurting, and then you realize you have six more enclosures to do. It's like, can I quit? And I'm already too far gone. Like, I have to keep the same, essence of all the enclosures.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
There,
that
there,
is
there, there is
very
a
challenging.
there is a easier way and a better way to do it, but it costs a lot more money, and that's buying universal rocks.
Yes,
Right.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just doing their full on backgrounds.
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
yeah. No, I looked at them, but I thought, nah.
It's a lot.
Um, yes, it is a whole lot. It's a lot of work. Yeah.
So let's jump into this pairing, man. Let's talk about the Tiger, Aztec, and the Kayuadi.
Hmm.
That Kayuadi, um, you took to the Tiger Aztec. That was the very first time that you were breeding. So before we even like get into the vision of, what you want to accomplish and what you're trying to do. Um, I want to talk a little bit about like, what was your, so let's talk about like how you got them to breed. So what were your husbandry parameters? What are you shooting for? And then what did you change and what did you do? Because you had been keeping all this time, right? And now all of a sudden you switched it into breed mode for this pairing. And so I kind of want to hear like what you did differently and what
Yeah.
changed.
So maybe not a good answer, but I did nothing.
Perfect.
I did not. So part of my ignorance to this is I was expecting for them to breed and cycle. It's either going to be in the fall or the spring. You occasionally get some off-cycle breedings. Um, so fall came and gone. It was December. When was it? Oh, off topic. But you know that book, that notebook, you mentioned a few months ago, for all your notes.
Mm-hmm.
What is it called? Is it called the Notebook? No, Remarkable.
Oh, the remark. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's right. We were talking about
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. So
remarkable.
I bought one of those,
Mm-hmm.
and it's amazing.
Yeah.
But so my me being new, it's into December. Almost the new year. I'm thinking, well, hopefully she'll go next year. Because she was four, getting close to 5 years old. And I thought, okay, well, it's just not going to happen this time. That's okay, no problem. But then I have a couple of them that are like just, they will not miss a meal. Um, and that's what she was. And I had to kind of like force her to eat a rabbit. And so I wrote it down. I thought that's a little strange. Like that is not her personality. Then the next time she didn't eat. And I thought, like what's happening? I think this is how it's supposed to go.
Right.
So I'm messaging
So you
everyone
did
that
you
I
did
know.
you didn't upper feeding? No, nothing.
No, 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 I didn't do anything.
What size were you feeding her? Like what prey size? What?
Man, I don't know. Um, it would depend. Sometimes it'd be a big rabbit, or other times. So I try to be strategic whenever I feed. So say a smaller one, say I'm going to feed him a rat, and I'm going to feed the bigger one a rabbit. I'm going to attempt to feed the rats first before I thaw out the rabbit, because if they don't eat it, I'll give it to the other one, so I'm not wasting the food. And so it really just depends. I keep track of, I mean, I could tell you, I have tracks of every single time they ate, what they ate, when they shed, their size, all those things I keep record of. Um, I heard someone did it before whenever, I thought that'd be a fantastic thing to share whenever I sell, if I get lucky to sell one. I can have all that history, and data for that new person that buys it. Um, but no, so to your point, what I was told was you should feed them, steady, up until like that 10-foot mark. Feed them. I don't want to say power feed. I think that gets people think of that in a negative way, but feed them a little heavier.
Yeah.
After they reach the 10-foot mark, cut it back some. Um, And I've always been told a fat snake is a bad breeder. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that. But then in the same token, I was told, hey, if it's their first time that they're ever breeding, it's okay if they have a little bit more weight on it. But then after that first time, you should really be aware of what they're eating and then kind of cycle
Scale it
them.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. So really, I just was on the same token of, hey, we'll say fatten her up some. Um, so I mean, I didn't do anything. I literally thought I had a whole nother year before this was even going to take place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And she
but
just went off food.
yeah, yeah, just stop eating. Um, so then, like, I'm messaging everyone I know, like, hey man, what do I do? I got this. Because my male Aztec, he was only
8.5 months
um,
old.
yes, yeah. Um,
I
and
my ocelot bred at 11 months old, and that's young.
yeah,
Your Aztec at
and
8.5 months old, that's impressive.
yeah, yeah. And so Bob was telling me, and Xavier, and I'm like, feed them, feed them, feed them. The
Hmm.
lump's gone, feed them. You need to get the size. Um, and then at least I guess like earliest they've seen is like 6, 7 months for a male to, breed. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, is this going to work out? Because if it wouldn't have worked out with my Aztec, I would not have put. I only have one other male, and that is my purple Sunfire OGS. I wasn't going to put him with her. I didn't want to make a breeding just to say I bred something.
Right.
Because that's not my goal. That's not where the path I was trying to go down. So I thought I'll put him in there. But then it's not that easy. Like this snake is like 2 feet long, and this one's 20 feet long. Like, what do you mean I got to put him in there? Like, I'm scared to death.
Yeah.
The Aztec is not cheap. I'm
Nope.
thinking you better be nice. Don't you hurt him? And so I got some good tips on like what I could do to introduce them, like take them both out at the same time, kind of put them in at the same time. Really, really just soaked up the knowledge from all these different people I reached out to. And I think that's when I purchased the cameras. I thought, I don't know, like what's happening. So then I bought all the cameras for all the enclosures so I could see without, being right down there. Um, and then I saw him, he was they said watch out to make sure that she's not wagging her tail or peeing everywhere or anything like that, and she wasn't. I thought, okay, step one, good. um and then she was okay with him climbing on her and everything else, and I thought, okay, so
Did she do like the small little twitches? But
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yeah, yep, just the and it's crazy because they make themselves do the small little twitches whenever they like touch themselves. They don't
yeah,
realize that it's them. Like
yeah,
they bump each other off, and it's like,
yeah.
oh, you stupid. So, yeah. So nothing in my mind that I thought, hey, this isn't a good time to keep him in there. Um, but this is where things got a little tricky. You ask 10 different people, you get 10 different answers on how long you should keep the meal in there. How
Hmm.
Yep.
many days should you keep them in there?
Yep.
I think, why'd I ask so many people? I should have asked one and just went with it because it was, I had
It's
no
a
idea.
lot of people. For me, when people are doing breedings for the first time and it's their first time doing it, I tell them leave that male in there and don't take him out until the female's in shed.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
unless you see them on the opposite side of the enclosure day after day after day.
yeah, yep. So I put them in there. I tracked it all. I would watch the video the next day, and then I would, annotate that on my log to see if I saw any potential locks.
Man,
Um,
when you said you have the time to dedicate to this, you weren't joking.
yeah, 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 I do.
You're watching
It's
tape. You're going back to
yes,
the locker room and watching reels.
yeah, yeah. So well, what I don't know is everyone. So that was in December that this whole process started. She just now laid her eggs.
Hmm.
So that time frame
Yep.
is a little off from at least everyone I've been talking to. That it typically wouldn't take 5 months, for that process, 4.5, 5 months. Um, and so they said, well, when did she ovulate? I don't know. You tell me when she ovulated. I can't tell the damn difference. Like this is my first time doing it. I have no idea what I'm doing. And they kept asking me, it was the right questions to ask. I just unfortunately didn't have the answers.
Right. Right.
So I thought that I knew when and when the mail wasn't put in there. So after that, I felt confident to take the mail out. But then she shed. I thought, terrific. That's her prelay shed, right? I got the clock starting. I got, prepared, got my incubators going. I bought a backup incubator in case my first incubator, crapped out for, excuse me, whatever reason. I'm like 100% prepared, ready to go. And then nothing happens. Well, she shed again. I thought, oh, what? And so that threw a wrench in everything. Um, And then 30 days later, she shed again. So she had three sheds And the whole time I can see her body is humongous.
Yep.
Like I know there's eggs in there. Um, and it kind of stumped a lot of people. Like the basis aren't adding up on why she's having all these additional sheds. So it should be the male's in there, she has her prelay shed, and then X amount of days after that, she lays eggs. But I get there's one-offs, but this must have been one of them because that did not work. Um, so really, I got to the point, I would tell all my employees, my family, oh, it should be any day now by the calculations. It should be this from that. I
Three
read the
months
book.
later.
Yeah. And I got so fed up. People would ask, they'd send me a message, hey man, where's those eggs? And it's like, shut up. I'm not answering, I'm not responding. So the craziest thing, Aaron, from AM Retics, he's been, man, he's helped me out so much. It's awesome how much he helps me out. He texts me on Friday morning. He says, hey, where are the eggs at? And I remember thinking when I was driving to work, I thought, I'm not responding. Like, I don't know where they're at. And then at lunchtime, I ran over to Taco Bell and I'm getting ready to pay. And I'm sitting in my truck, the drive through, and I pull up the cameras and I look and I see a big old thing of eggs. And I thought, oh my gosh, I was shaking,
Yep.
telling the
It's the
the
best.
Taco Bell lady, I got some eggs. I gotta get home, and I just was, it was the adrenaline, everything was there. It was so awesome. So I called him. He didn't pick up. He was in a meeting or something. And but yeah, it was awesome, seeing that. And she started at like 8 in the morning and then didn't stop. I think until like 6:30 in the evening.
Yeah.
So once I saw that was at noon, she started at 8. She probably already had at least 36, 37 eggs already dropped.
And she dropped how many? 41?
40, 40, 41
40.
good ones, and she had a
Yeah.
slug.
Yeah. So 42. Man, great job from first time mama. What I love about Kayuadis is they lay some tiny eggs. That's their clutches are always big. Um, yeah. That's,
Yeah.
you know, oh, sorry, punch my mic. I'm trying to think, right? Like what could have happened to where there were so many sheds in a missed period. And the only thing that I can think of was that when she refused that meal, she must have just been getting on the very beginning stages of follicular development. It was likely her first shed was a normal shed. It was
Mm,
likely that her second shed was the follicular build shed or pre ovulation shed.
hmm.
And then the third shed was the post ovulation shed. And
Yeah.
so that's the only way that I can and why the timeline, because if you think about like, okay, so when a snake builds follicles is when they can lock, right? After they lock, it takes anywhere, I've seen, from the time they start building follicles to the time that they ovulate can be, roughly on average for me at least, it's about like, it's a long average, but 7 to 14 days. So let's say 2 weeks, right?
Mm,
Then after that, they go into a shed. They have that shed, and having that shed takes about, you know, to from start of shed to finish of shed takes about another 2 weeks. So we're talking about a month in, and then we're talking about a month, sometimes up to a month and a half for them to lay after that. So we're already at like 2.5 months if things went like right
hmm.
off of when she was building follicles. So it's kind of crazy. I mean, that's a lot of sheds to happen, but I don't think like if it was 3 sheds, right, and it took
Hmm.
like, yeah, you might have just caught it at the very beginning when she still needed to build a little bit more.
Yeah, and see, that's the hard part for me. Like, when do you put the male in? Like, because she stopped eating, is that when you put her in?
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb.
Well, when do you take her out?
I mean, you just keep doing intros, right? So I mean, that's the way it goes. If I like to say like with retics, like leave him in there for 3 to 5 days. If you see that they're cuddled up, remove him, feed him a small meal, offer her a meal, see if she takes. If she doesn't take, cool. You let the male digest for a day or two. You put the male back in for 5 days, right? And you do
Hmm.
that until you see an ovulation, or in your case, eggs.
Yeah, right. Well, so a couple things that challenges that I discovered that most people don't is because I have the logs in there, the big bowls, the plants, is it is harder for me to see those things, because they're hidden, potentially behind the big log, the big branch, the plant. I can't see exactly what's going on. Um, and then also they say that they're laying over a log. th- their body's depleted by spending all that time and energy to make the eggs, that it looks weird. Like there's a couple times I sent some messages that, hey, why does my snake look like this? And I remember Aaron said, I don't know, man. We don't have logs in our cages. We don't know what it's supposed to look like. I thought, makes sense, Um, so that was a big learning curve for me to see the potential differences that I may see that potentially other people don't see, in the snake's activity. The other thing, she is so sweet. Um, but she started pushing. So I put some rubber gaskets along the sides, and so she was just now having to push onto the so it wasn't hurting her. But she kept wanting out, and the rule of thumb is that I've been told is leave the snake alone, don't touch them while they're going through this process. And I kind of gave up on if she's going to have the eggs. I thought she'll have them if she has them. Um, so I opened up the door, and I have a big tub for her to soak in. I thought, hey, she wants to go for a swim, go for a swim. And I opened it up, put it next to the door. She went right in there. I mean, a good hour and a half. She stayed in there. I didn't have the lid on. Like she wanted nothing else but just to sit in there and soak. Because my thought was, I don't know, is she egg bound? Like, is that going to help relax her? And she loved it. And then I would take her out a little bit, put her head in the enclosure. It was so easy. She went into the tub, she went out of the tub,
Yep.
because it is exponentially harder to get these snakes out or in and out of their enclosures when you have logs and everything else.
Oh
It's like
yeah.
they have 20 hands gripping something
Yep.
when you're trying to get them out.
Yeah, and especially in your enclosures, where if they remove one log, that might be four more falling, right?
Right? Yeah. Yeah. It's all coming down, and yeah. Yeah. So the conversations aren't so pleasant whenever that's happening.
Oh man.
But yeah, or you just fixed everything and then it's like, and they ruined it. It's like, man. Um, but yeah, I did that twice with her. She wanted out, soaked, and so I don't know if that did anything, but I was to the point, hey, this is what the snake is telling me she wants. If she didn't want to go in there, she would have stayed in her enclosure. So yeah, I don't know if that's good or bad for the potential eggs, but I don't know. Worked
I
out for
think
me,
it
I
it's
guess.
a potential testament to reading your animals and, taking it on a more individual basis.
Right.
Yeah.
How was it pulling her off the eggs? Was she defensive at all? Was she feisty?
No, but I look like an idiot, so that's why I cut it out.
Oh, I was terrified the first time that I pulled a clutch of eggs. I was all flinchy. I was scared that like, but no. What's funny, I've never had a female strike at me once.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
You watch all those horror videos that are out there, unfortunately, and about them striking and everything else, and her demeanor's terrific. It really
Isn't
is.
it
But
isn't it interesting that it only comes from a single source though?
yeah,
right,
that's correct.
right.
Yes. Um, but with obviously my inexperience, regardless of how, tame she is, we'll say. I mean, I'm always on my guard, right?
Hmm.
Um, but I knew I'm taking her eggs. Like, so her behavior from before is all out the window. Like, I took this as I don't know how it's going to go. I'm going to be extremely cautious. Um, so when I'm there, I'm thinking, like, what do I do? Like, do I tap her? Do I touch her? Do I talk to her? Like, how do I get her attention that, I'm not just in there, stealing her eggs? And whenever I touched her, she whipped her head around. I thought, oh,
Here it
okay, so
comes.
this is what we're gonna do. So I do have the entire recording of me getting them out. But it was me kind of brainstorming what's the best way, because I don't want to stress her out. You know, I don't want to manhandle her. I don't want to do anything negative to her. So I was able to finally pick her up some, and then her head turned right around to me, but her body was wrapped around my hand, so her face was actually at her body. I thought, if you bite, you're biting yourself, so you can go
Go
for
for
it.
it.
But she didn't. She didn't strike. Nothing. It was like, hey, what are you doing? I said her. You can see where she's directly to the side of me. I went in there, grabbed one swoop, got all the eggs, including the slug. Um, so she didn't cause any issues at all.
Good,
I thought
good, good.
that was really good.
Yeah, I have a female sibling of her, and she's never given me an issues pulling her clutch either.
Yeah,
She's a very touchy. Like if you touch, like she's very responsive to touch, right? But
yeah,
that's it. So Aztec Kayuadis and Tiger Aztec Kayuadis with a big clutch at 41 good eggs for now. We'll see how it goes towards the
yeah.
end. What are you incubating on, and what temperatures? Just real quick, like what substrate medium are you using, and what temperatures are you incubating at?
Yeah, so I had the animal plastic incubators. I am doing 88.5. So that's an issue in itself. I can't just get one temperature because depending on if it's on the top shelf, bottom shelf, middle shelf, they all have a variance. So it's anywhere from 88 to 88.7, we'll say. Um, and then it's on the, what is it? The perlite?
Perlite, the white stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, perlite.
yeah.
Cool. All
But
right.
I'm having issues though because the humidity is so high in there. I think I have some wet spots on my eggs. Um, so I'm trying to figure out like how do you stop that? I was talking to Xavier and Bob earlier today, and they recommended I kind of lift the lid up a little bit to help that dissipate out.
Do you have any holes
I do.
in your tub?
Yeah, on both sides, opposite sides, there's two little holes I have.
Okay, you can maybe add one, right? But here's one thing that I will say. Oftentimes when did you candle the eggs?
I didn't do all of them, but I did do
So
some of them.
so oftentimes what will end up happening is within the first 30 days, there's going to be eggs that develop windows and go bad, and those eggs were going to go bad from the start, right?
Mhm.
So um, now if the ones that are getting windows are building a lot of condensation on them, are if you candle those and they have veins, then that means that there's too much condensation. But for me, I've never a healthy egg that gets wet has never died on me.
Okay.
Not with retics, right? If you're breeding green tree pythons, completely different story. You put a little milliliter of water on it and it's dead.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I would just make sure that you have good airflow, and I mean, you can always burp that lid, a couple times a week, wipe the top off, and
Yeah. That's
but yeah,
funny you said burp. Uh, I was talking to Aubrey today, and he told me to burp the lid,
yeah,
and I specifically responded. I said, "What does that mean?"
yeah.
And he told me,
I said the
"Yeah,
same thing when I asked for the first time too.
yeah." And I was like, "All right, thank you." And it made sense, right?
Yeah,
But yeah, so yeah, but and then I'm nervous on like how long can I have the lid off? Like it's gonna be a very stressful 80 days or whatever it's gonna
yeah.
be.
It'll be
You
like that
know,
your first few clutches.
oh man, it's rough.
Yeah. Yeah, but major congrats, man. I think that that's huge.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
The fact that you're already taking Aztec into a smaller, like a more manageable size locality is a huge win. What I love about Kayuadis is they have a high rosette count, and
Hmm.
so it's going to make the rosettes on the Aztec look amazing. And then for the Aztec Tigers, it has the possibility of reducing the stripe and like making more elongated rosettes. I think it's going to come out really cool.
Yeah, I really hope so.
Yeah. Um, so I'm trying to think, Nathan, you got any other questions that you want to talk about with these animals?
No, not a ton. I'm just still impressed so much by the enclosures. I think, and just the fact that he bred at 8.5 months old. That's a
Yeah,
powerhouse
he's a
male
G.
right there. So
Yeah.
no, I'm
Uh,
I'm just excited to see some babies. So
Yeah,
right.
me too.
What's expected due date? So you just pulled these a handful of days ago, right?
Yeah, last Friday. I think August 22nd, somewhere around there.
That'll be a good summer gift.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Or, I'm nervous like Bartho clutches or, something like that. So it's
Don't if you want advice on how to not do a Partho clutch, don't ask me.
Yeah, don't listen
right.
to
Don't
Lucas.
Right.
yeah, I'm not the
Do the
person to talk
Bartho
to.
clutches normally have a bunch of eggs? Or is it
Yeah.
like a reduced?
No, I mean the number of eggs and the number of the size of the clutch doesn't change.
Okay.
However many eggs make it changes.
Okay.
Um, but you'll know if more than half of that clutch dies, and then the other ones that don't die, they hatch. Some have issues, some don't have issues. I guarantee
Hmm.
you, it's probably a Partho. And then at that point, you can literally probe or pop them and look at the sex.
Yeah.
It's not like you bred a wild type to a wild type either, right?
Hmm.
So you'll you'll know if it's a Partho or not if you have an Aztec or you have a Tiger in there,
Yeah. Gotcha.
right?
Gotcha.
Um, but no, man. I mean, I'm trying to think like, could there be a better first clutch to have? Like, could there be a better pairing? And I'm thinking like my first one was like wild caught Kalatoas. So for like locality influence, I'm thinking like I feel on top of the world, but like as far as just like, you just pulled off the like you got this Aztec and within a few months, like bada boom, bada bing, like made it happen. And that's
Yeah.
epic.
Yeah, man, I've had so much great guidance from so many people.
Yeah.
There's no way I wouldn't be able to do it without having, a good support system.
Yeah.
I mean, I asked the stupidest question. Like I look back and I thought, oh my gosh, why'd I ask that? But just never, no one's ever rude. Like it's okay. Say, hey, Nathan, that's a stupid question, man. Like you should know that. And I haven't had that from anyone. So
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah. No, I mean, for the most part, you can find a really good supportive circle
Yeah.
in the Retic community, especially just considering how much it's a dumpster fire right now. I don't
Yeah.
know. I was a little distracted earlier on because evidently Rodney, for the first time ever, is coming after my head now on the Retic Alliance. So this is this
Oh,
is
really?
this is fun. I've
I
been
thought didn't you guys do podcasts
yeah,
together or
me and Rodney have been best friends for the last several years.
um
So he was
Who doesn't
texting.
like a good manic episode?
He was texting, blowing up my phone. And I was like, "Hey, buddy, I'm recording. Like, we'll talk tomorrow."
yeah. Yeah, well hope you guys figure it out.
Yeah, we'll see. I
Yeah.
mean, he's gonna do what he's gonna do. At the end of the day, I'm gonna be like, are you okay? Like, do we need to talk? Um, but it is what it is. But yeah,
Yeah.
man, I appreciate you coming on. And when those eggs hatch, I'm. This is the like right now out of anybody who's had snakes lay eggs, like this is the number one clutch that I cannot wait to see in about 80 days how they look.
Yeah, well I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
buddy. Cheering you on. Can't wait to see those babies. Can't see what pops out of there, and just appreciate your time this evening, kind of breaking down your
Yeah.
journey into retics.
Yeah.
Before you
Yeah, thanks
hop
for
off,
having me.
yeah, before you hop off, do you mind just plugging yourself, your social medias, and just what they can expect to see as you unfold, the breeding stuff?
Yeah, so on Facebook it's Nathan Hess Retics. Same thing on Instagram. There's not a whole lot of activity I had on those pages because I just was getting started. But I do have plans in the near future to increase the amount of content and updates that I am doing. So there'll be a lot more to come. And then, like I said, when I move, there'll be tons of stuff I'll be posting with the new enclosures, and I have already a list of animals I'm recruiting to get. So it'll be exciting to see soon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all the updates. Get more pictures of those cages and those snakes perched up. I love seeing that stuff. But yeah, we'll talk to you soon. We'll have you back on and get some updates. I'm excited for the other pairings that you have coming along.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Yep.
Yeah,
Take it
good
easy.
meeting you, Nathan.
You too.
Alrighty, bud.
Oh, we're going Canadian, eh?
Yeah. All right. Awesome episode. I'm Nathan is he came in here guns a blazing and ready to just like make his mark, but also the cool thing about like him making his mark is that he's doing it while also showing that like he's taking care of his animals in the best way possible, right? So I don't know. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, no, it brings me back to the episode we did talking about the reptile greenhouse with A Life Exotic, Zach
Right.
Porritt. And when I talk to someone totally outside the industry about, just cool things that we've been able to do on the show, it's highlight people that, really go above and beyond for their animals. So this is another one I get to add to that list.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Just want to give a shout out to our Patreon members. Thank you so much for your continued support. If you guys are wanting to join our Discord and our Patreon, the link is right there. Patreon.com/the Retic Lounge. You can join for as little as $5 a month. That gets you access to the Discord, where it's popping day in, day out. So come and join us, hang out with us, and we'll see you next week on episode 139.
Later.